Well, hello there. This video is sponsored by Luminar AI.
I'm Manny, this is Samantha, and we're gonna be testing out the new Bokeh AI feature on Luminar AI, and I've got two of the sexiest cameras on the planet, Canon R5 and the Sony A1. So what I'm gonna do is take one photo at f1.4, then the next photo at an f4. And in Luminar AI, using Bokeh AI, I am going to apply the bokeh to the photo at f4 and try to make it look just like the one at f1.4. That is how I'm gonna gauge how good this feature is. So let's see what's up. First shot, I'm having Samantha sitting on that ledge and shooting with an 85-1.4 and all the buildings next to her. She looks like she's really high up. It looks magical. Here, take a look at that. What, 1, 2, 3. Great. Now that I took the photo at f4, a lot more is in focus, but how better to judge the quality of bokeh than, you know, comparing it to an actual image at f1.4. I don't expect it to be perfect, but how good is it? How good?
This is the straight out of camera photo that I took at f4, and this is the one that I took at f1.4. Diving into Luminar, I selected the portrait bokeh feature and noticed right away how good of a selection it made on the model. Looking at the sliders, it also gives you options to quickly brighten the background, increase the brightness of the highlights, change the temp, adjust the depth correction, which changes the amount of blur in the photo, and adjust the edge of which the mask is being applied on the subject. There are a couple of tweaks I can make it to look perfect. Clicking on the focus tab, I can manually remove blur from certain spots. I removed that sharp line of blur under her pants and some foreground blur that didn't look realistic. Last, I tried to match the amount of blur taken on my 85-1.4, and honestly, it looks damn good. I probably wouldn't be able to tell this was artificial blur if I wasn't here looking at them side by side.
For my second shot, I'm gonna have her lean against the end of the parking lot here, and now we're at the level of the train, so I'm gonna wait for that train to come. I feel some epic vibes here. I think it's gonna be really good. But one really important thing to consider is, where is the light coming from? I don't have any artificial light, and I can tell that the light's coming from out there. So if you look at me over here, now we start to get like shadow and like that ugly side lighting. That is the direction that I'm gonna want her face to be at. So what I'm gonna do is have her at that corner, and then I'm gonna have her look somewhere over here. So I'm gonna try to look at that red building, and yeah, this is one of my go-to moves, is like where almost like you're brushing your hair off your face to like look at something. So you're gonna be looking at that red building like that. I want you with your left leg to raise it just a bit, your knee.
This was the straight out of camera photo at f4, and this is the one that I took at f1.4. Now, every image presents different challenges. The thing that needed correction on this one was bringing her finger back into focus. So quickly mask the finger back into focus. And I like how Luminar AI already knows that the wall she is leaning on, the barrier that she's leaning on, doesn't need to be blurred. But once I increased the blur amount, you can see that the flat side of the top of that barrier, it being blurred, you can see it. It doesn't look natural. Now, all that was needed was to match the blur amount of the photo that was taken at f1.4. Other than the real bokeh balls in the train station behind her, I'm pretty sure that not many of you would be able to tell that this was artificial blur, even if you pixel peeped.
All right, so I normally don't like to shoot it like a long, you know, because I feel like this is an easy shot. I like to try to make it a little more complicated, but it's a good example for what I'm trying to do here. So I have her leaning here like this, and this is an easy shot, and it looks really good, but now it's all about the expression, right? So let me see. So we're gonna go like this. Maybe put it right here, like in your elbow, like that. Let me see. Get closer. And I want you looking at that window straight right there. Move the hair a little bit off, right there. Looking right at that window, just like that. That's it. Please don't move. perfect. Ooh, solid.
For this one, I was really confident I was gonna have trouble with the masking because of how close my lens was up to the wall and how extreme the depth of field is here. After increasing the blur, I only noticed 3 spots that needed a touch up for it to be perfect. There's 1 dot by her forehead, there was 1 by her hair, and the other one was by her elbow because technically speaking, the part of the wall that she's leaning her elbow on would still be in focus even at f1.4. After tweaking the blur and the highlight brightness, I think it looks very comparable to the shot taken at f1.4.
Third location, again, using 85. Everything looks better with 85 right now, even though we have a lot of environment. But for bokeh, this is a great lens to use, obviously. And now I'm just lining her up with that building behind her. We got some nice bokeh there. I think that'd be a great way to test it.
Right off the bat, the masking was almost perfect. You see some of the red on the vent, but that's not a big deal because that part of the cement wall or structure that she was sitting on wasn't supposed to be blurred out anyways. There's just a small part of it that's blurred out that can easily be fixed using the focus mask tool. Sometimes when using a lot of blur, even when the mask looks perfect, sometimes you'll see like that halo effect on the side of the body and the arms. I mean, the image looks almost identical to the shot that I took at f1.4.
All right, so one rule of thumb when shooting models is, you don't want to shoot over them because then that'll make them look small. And it's usually not a good perspective, but since she's leaning on the end there, I'm asking her just to like slightly bend back so that she's almost like even with the camera, so I'm not getting that distortion or that look, that perspective. Because I just want to get the train tracks behind her from this angle. So let's try it out. Ready?
Out of the 5 photos, this was the only one that gave me some kind of jagged masking along the hair. But I see why when I zoom in, because you see some light hairs in that small gap there. Using the focus brush while being at 100% soft, I quickly brush along that side and you can see the hairs come back into focus in a natural looking way. After adjusting the blur amount on this photo to match the other photo, the only thing that needed to match was probably the vignette. I'm not gonna add the vignette because that's another characteristic, but genuinely impressed with the portrait bokeh so far. If you are someone who can't afford expensive prime lenses with wide apertures, or you just want to add even more separation to your portrait, this is something you should take a look at. The masking done by the AI makes it easy to use and will give you realistic results. And if I didn't just prove that, well, then maybe I should go work a 9-to-5 or something.
It's a wrap. See the long web? Get the web off me, you fool. Another spider web, yo. I'm not good with this, bro.
There are a couple of tweaks I can make it to look perfect. Clicking on the focus tab, I can manually remove blur from certain spots. I remove that shit